And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Frame.
Thank you so much. So we're going to talk more about nutrition. I don't know if all of you were here for the first time I about nutrition, but we are going to refer back to that a little bit, and just want to let you know that I have a handout for you today, and we're going to resend out the handout for that one because it's relevant. So today we're going to focus on gut health, immunity, and nutrition, and what you need to know about gut and immunity. So actually the majority of your immune system is in your gut, which might be counterintuitive to some of you, but you just need to kind of internalize it. That's why we care about gut health. It really is kind of the root of wellness, because you can't have a functioning immune system without a healthy gut. The gut is also where microorganisms and the immune system meet for the most part, other than the skin. And that's for both good and bad microorganisms. So the good ones are what we typically think of when we think about the microbiome. So we will talk a little bit about the microbiome. And then also you need to know that the gut is where diet and nutrition interact with health and disease in many ways. So if you're not getting the right nutrition in, your gut is not going to be healthy, your immune system is not going to be healthy, your whole body is not going to be healthy. But also if your gut isn't healthy, even if you're eating the right things, you may not be absorbing the nutrition very well. So you really need to take care of your gut for your whole health. So what's important for your gut and your immune health? First, we're going to flash back to things we already talked about in the last one. So a lot of the same factors here. You want to maintain a healthy weight, not too little, not too much. Eat a very diverse diet, rich in vegetables and fruits. So eating the rainbow, which we have had a handout on that. And then making sure you're getting special attention to selenium, zinc, vitamins A, C, D, E, and all the B vitamins. Those are the really crucial ones. Obviously, every nutrient is important, but these are the ones that are particularly important in this case. So what we're going to talk about today are some, what I'm calling great vegetables for digestion. So all vegetables are good for digestion, but these are some that are particularly good, and I'm going to let you know why they're particularly good. First one is artichokes. Hopefully you're all getting the occasional artichoke in your diet, because they contain a type of fiber that's called a prebiotic. And that means that it's the food that your gut microbiome likes to eat. And so if you have these prebiotic fibers, such as in artichokes, your microbiome will eat them and be happy and healthy, and then you will be happy and healthy. So we want to make sure we're getting them enough of that. And you can get these from food. You might see prebiotic supplements, but you can get all of that from food. You don't need a supplement to get this. For instance, 1 can of artichokes contains 14 grams of fiber, which is almost half what you would need in a day. So artichokes are a great source of that. Next one is greens. So any sort of greens, collard greens, kale, Swiss chard, anything that you can get that looks somewhat green. It's a great source of fiber, particularly insoluble fiber, which helps keep the GI moving. It's more what we think of in terms of roughage and cleaning you out, the old idea of fiber as opposed to the new one being the microbiome. But this is also important because if something's just sitting in your gut and it isn't getting cleaned out, that's not good for you or your gut microbiome. And it's been linked to things like colorectal cancer. And with the gut microbiome, there's actually a mechanism that we know that if protein is undigested and sits in the gut, then your gut microbiome produces this product called TMAO, and that can actually cause colorectal cancer. It's also been linked to heart disease. So we want to make sure we're getting things moving with the GI. So you want to get both your insoluble and your soluble kind of fiber. Greens, of course, are also a really good source of vitamins A and K1. So another reason to eat them. In terms of getting a diversity of fiber, squash is a really great one because it has both insoluble and soluble types of fiber. So you're getting 2 of the main kinds all in one vegetable. So maybe if you didn't have a lot of vegetables that day, just make sure you get some squash and you've kind of covered your fiber at least. And now my favorite, broccoli. Most people don't get so excited about broccoli, but I think it's fantastic. When cooked properly, it's delicious. And it's really, really good for you. Broccoli, of course, has fiber. We're talking about that today, but it's more than just fiber. It does have 5 to 6 grams of fiber per cup, and most of that is in the stalk of the broccoli. So don't forget to eat the broccoli stalks. Don't just cut off the flowers and eat that part, because you're then throwing out all the good, healthy fiber. And again, that's something people don't typically think about. And a lot of times kids are quite particular about what part of the broccoli they eat, but eat the whole, the root to tip eating, like nose to tail eating, it's root to tip. You want to eat the whole plant. So why else do we want to eat broccoli? So it actually contains things called polyphenols, which may sound like a crazy word, but you've probably already heard of things that are polyphenols. You've probably heard that red wine contains resveratrol. That's one of the most famous polyphenols. So broccoli is chock full of them, and that's a great reason to eat it for many health benefits, including prevention of cancer. So another reason to be doing this is prevention of cancer. Two of the big polyphenols, sulforaphane, not important what it's called, but it's called sulforaphane. It's actually been shown to be anti-inflammatory. And in this time of COVID, where we're really concerned about chronic inflammation, there's another reason to eat your broccoli. So hopefully we are knocking down that chronic inflammation. This compound has also been shown to prevent cancer in all sorts of different ways. Topically, they actually use it for breast cancer patients undergoing radiation. So there's really great benefits to this compound. Another one, and this one you may actually be familiar with, is called glutamate. And that supports mental well-being, which we all really need right now. We need to support our mental well-being as well as we can. So broccoli, there's the answer again. But what's really interesting, and if you can find it, or if you have your own sprouter at home, the best way to get all of these compounds is through broccoli sprouts. So sprouting the broccoli yourself, it actually contains hundreds of times more of these compounds in the sprouts, in the little baby, 5-day-old plants, than it does in the broccoli itself. And then it also gives you some variety, right? So if you have broccoli one day, then have broccoli sprouts the next day, and maybe then take a day off and just give you some variety. But I personally like doing my own broccoli sprouts. It's relatively easy to do and very cheap, right? You get a packet of broccoli seeds, you throw a few of them in some water, you let them dry off, you just rinse them in for every day, and in 3 or 4 days, you've got some sprouts that you can eat, and they're incredibly nutritious. So in the handout, I do have a little bit more about broccoli, so you can read about that, including the Cullman Chemoprotection Center at Johns Hopkins, which I studied there when I was at Hopkins. And they actually discovered the compound sulforaphane. And they have tons of really great resources about health benefits of broccoli, and also moringa, which you've probably maybe heard alluded to. It's kind of one of those new superfoods. So if you want to learn more, you can have a look at that. And I just wanted to mention one more thing. So we talked a lot about fiber today because it's really important for your gut health. It's really important for your microbiome. But how much do you need? And that can be somewhat difficult to determine. The recommendations are 14 grams per 1,000 calories. So if you know how many calories you need to eat each day, then you can figure that out, 14 grams per 1,000 calories. But just to give you an idea, for a woman, the average woman, it's about 25 grams. And for the average man, it's about 38 grams. So 25 or 38. Well, the average person actually only eats 17 grams. So most people aren't getting anywhere near the amount of fiber that they eat. I'm sure people on this call are not average. I'm sure you are all getting more fiber than normal, but you'd be surprised that you're probably still not getting quite enough. So adding things to your diet, like we talked about, the artichokes, squash, greens, and more broccoli, hopefully will help with that. But then there is also the possibility of taking a fiber supplement if you don't get enough fiber in your diet. The one thing I would just stress is you got to be really careful when you add fiber to your diet, particularly in supplement form, because it can cause a lot of GI upset. So just be really gentle with fiber. It's very important, but too much of a good thing is not a good thing. Okay, so that is my presentation for today. I wanted to keep it really short. If you have any questions about this, we will take a few right now. Oh, I think Anne has her hand up. You're on mute. Anne, you're on mute. We can't hear you. There we go.
Are cooked vegetables a whole lot less nutritious, or are they almost as nutritious?
Excellent question. So in part depends on how you cook them. So most of the nutrients that we talk about, other than A and D, are water-soluble nutrients. So if you are boiling something, that water is actually taking the nutrients out. So the water might end up being more nutritious than the vegetables. So don't boil them. Same thing with steaming, unfortunately, because it's still, if you steam broccoli and you look at the water, it's green, right? So some of that has been taken out. So one of my big tips is actually microwave. So put your broccoli in the microwave. It will kind of steam itself, and then you're not losing any of that water. You're not losing any of the nutrients with it. Also, you can cook it kind of more precisely sometimes than if you're steaming it and you're trying to get in there and see if it's done. And then the other thing is, if it's still green, it's also a good sign, right? So while greens are really delicious when cooked low and slow for a long time, maybe with a little bit of bacon, it's probably not the healthiest way to eat them. Maybe a rubbed kale salad would be good to throw in for some diversity, or to just cook them until they still have some of that bright green to them. So cooking is really important. The other thing too is frying. So the opposite of water, if you fry something, you're going to lose the fat soluble vitamins. So you're going to lose the vitamins A and vitamins D. So if you're making kale chips, make sure they're baked and not fried.
Okay, I have one more. Is there any downside to getting your vegetables in a smoothie, vegetables and fruits?
That's a good question. I think if that helps you get more vegetables a day, that's fantastic, because you're getting the whole vegetable in a smoothie. It's not like a juice where you're getting rid of the fiber, which I would say is not a great way to intake vegetables. But there are some benefits to actually chewing food. You tend to think that you're more full. So eating a whole vegetable does have benefits, but if you're trying to get more vegetables in your diet, throwing them in your smoothie is a great way to do it.
Yeah, it's just that it's a great routine. I mean, you can stick 4 fruits or vegetables in there. It takes 5 minutes,
Right.
And I hate to cook. So for people who hate to cook,
Yes.
this is a great way to boom, 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 you've done it for the day.
Right. And if you're really busy, or if you have kids and you're trying to hide the vegetables, these are all great reasons to use smoothies.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Joanne?
You
Or is it
mentioned, Joan, and you mentioned squash. Are you talking about the winter squashes or things like zucchini and
All of the above, actually.
Really?
Yes. But the winter squashes can be more of a fibrous vegetable. They have more fiber, but they all have fiber in them, and all of the different kinds.
Okay.
And then you're getting your different colors too by having all the different kinds.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Is that Linda?
It is. I put it in the chat, but do you recommend probiotic supplements? And if so, which ones and how frequently do you take them?
Oh, that's a great question. So caveat, I take probiotics myself. So clearly I think they have some beneficial effect. My problem with probiotics is that we just don't know a ton about the individual bugs that are going into those probiotics. So we don't really know what their benefits are, how long those benefits last. So like how frequently you need to be taking them, whether they even are making it to the gut alive, and if it matters, because there's some research showing that maybe just having them in there, even if they don't make it alive, is beneficial. So lots of questions, but the one thing we do know is that diversity is really important in the gut microbiome. The more different bugs you have, the better. The best way to get that is with a diverse diet. So the more different plants you eat, the more different bugs you're likely to have. But if you're worried about making sure you have that bacteria, then getting a probiotic that has the most number of strains is the way to go. So rather than taking one that only has 1 or 2 strains, find one that has maybe 20, or taking a couple of different ones, maybe one in the morning, one in the afternoon. That way you're having enough diversity in the exposure. And also making sure you're getting them from a reputable company, which is a little bit difficult. There is a USP seal now for probiotics. My husband actually helped develop it. So you can now find USP seal on probiotics, where before that was only something you could look at for, like, vitamin D, for instance. Or if you go with something that's recommended by a physician, those are usually good products as well.
Dr. Kogan, Dr. Yackel, who's another doctor in the practice at GWCIM, they seem to be because of the diversity of individual microbiomes, that you can't really do an off-the-shelf probiotic effectively.
That is part of the issue. We don't know what you're missing.
All right, so let's just do one more question, I think, before we move to yoga. And there's a really good one of, so how do you know when your gut is healthy?
That's a great question. So this is one of those, and very yogic, listen to your body, right? If you are having any sort of GI symptoms, and people a lot of times, unfortunately, think these are normal. They think having less than one bowel movement a day is normal, or occasional gas is normal, or even just digestive upset where you just don't feel fantastic. That's not really normal. That's something you're having a reaction to. And sometimes it's just stress, right? It might not be a food related thing, but that means something has upset the balance, and you need to pay attention to what your body is telling you. So in terms of what a healthy gut is, you kind of have to just figure it out for yourself and see what the optimum is that you can be. No one can tell you what that is, but I will tell you, if you are having any symptoms like those, loose stools, constipation, anything like that, that means there is something even slightly amiss, and you should work on figuring out what that might be. And I would say that Judi's stress management today is probably going to help with that.
So much, Dr. Frame. I know I just learned quite a bit, and I'm excited to eat all of the broccoli, and on that, and especially just in service of my immune system, now knowing so much of it's in my gut. So thank you so much for your incredible knowledge. And I'll turn it over to Judi. Judi, would you like to just introduce yourself and very briefly share your background, and then we'll let's get moving?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, it's a real pleasure to be with all of you today. To prepare for a practice, I would like you all to have available a chair that you can sit in, and that is got a fairly firm seat to it, and that you can have your feet on the floor. So that will help prepare us for the practice. If that is available to you, that would be great. So I am Judi, and I'm here as a yoga teacher. I specialize in yoga for managing your mood and balancing your emotions. So in this time period of our pandemic, we all have a lot of emotions that we're dealing with. It can be sadness, stuckness, lack of energy. We can be anxious and worried about what's going to happen in the future. So all of these go under the category of stress. And if we find that we can't release our stress and we hold on to our stress, it has a negative impact on our physical well-being and our mental well-being. So one of the things that we can do is to focus on our breath. Surprisingly, our breath is one of the few things in our body that we can actually control. So we can use our breath to empower us and help us regulate our emotions and help us connect our mind and our body. So in our practice today, we're going to practice two different breathing exercises. One is going to be an energizing breath, and that's going to boost our energy level and help us release our tension and stress. And the other breath is a calming breath, which helps calm and soothe our central nervous system. So it's going to take us from that fight-flight system to the rest, relaxed, and digest. Now, before we begin our breathing exercises, we're going to do something called a check-in, or finding your baseline. So why are we doing this? Well, first of all, it gives us a chance to pause for a second and take a deep breath and look inward and ask yourself, how am I doing right now? So here we have a starting point for us. And then after we do our breath work, we can have a means of comparison to see how do we feel now. So let's begin. Seated in your chair, feet on the ground, and you can put your hands on your lap or next to you. Slowly close your eyes, and if that's not comfortable for you, just have your eyes gaze downwards. This signals the breath, the brain to move your awareness inwards. So I'm going to ask you 3 things that I want you to focus on right now. First, focus on the energy level in your body. So that can be low, medium, or high. So low energy would be if you're tired and lethargic. High energy would be that it's really hard for you to sit still. It's, you're just constantly moving. And people or yourself might say you're kind of hyper. So that's high. So either you're low, medium is in between. So either know that you're low, medium, or high energy, and remember that answer because we're going to come back to that. The next thing I'd like you to focus on is the speed or number of thoughts in your mind. So you can have few thoughts that are slow and steady. Or you can have lots of thoughts, which are very active and they're going all over the place. Or you can be someplace in between. So notice that, make a note, and then remember that answer. The last thing to notice is the connection between your mind and your body. So you can be very connected that your mind and body are in sync, they talk to one another, and you're present in your body. Otherwise, you might be disconnected, where your body is here and your mind is traveling someplace else, so you have no connection. The other choice is what I call a work in progress. So I think all of us, at least, are a work in progress because we're working on being connected. So remember where you are now, and we'll see how we feel after our practice. Now that we have our baseline, we can open up our eyes, and we're going to do our first exercise, which is called Breath of Joy. So the breath of joy does 3 things. It helps boost our energy in our body. We wind up opening up our chest, opening up our heart, so positive energy can come inwards. And it gives us this feel-good feeling. And then the other thing is, it gives us a way to release our tension by this ha sound. And that's going to be part of our breathing practice. So let's begin by standing up. You might need to move your chair away. You just need a little room. So I'm going to demonstrate first the arm movements. Some of us call this conductive breath just because of the arm movements. First, your arms are going to come up overhead. Then the arms are going to come out to the side. When they do this, focus on bringing positive energy inwards. Then your arms are going to come up again. And to finish, we're going to bend your leg, bend your knees, and then drop down with a big ha sound. Okay. If it's not available to you to bend down and drop your arms, then you can just stay standing and then drop your arms down and still use that ha breath. The ha breath helps you release energy. It helps you release tension. Helps you let go of what is not needed. Emotionally, if you're feeling frustrated, you can do that release with the ha breath. Or if you're just upset about things. So this is just a really, really positive way to handle your stress. The breath work goes as follows. It's 3 short inhales, and then you exhale with the ha. The louder you can make that ha, the more you'll feel that you've released. I'm going to do this 2 times to demonstrate, and then you all can join in with me. So all put together, it looks as this. Ha! Ha! Now join in with me. Inhale up, inhale out, inhale up, bend and ha! Inhale up, inhale out, inhale up, bend and ha! Inhale up, inhale out, inhale up, bend and ha! See if we can do it a little bit faster for another 4 more rounds. Inhale up, inhale out, inhale up, bend and ha! Inhale up, inhale out, inhale up, bend and ha! Inhale up, inhale out, inhale up, bend and ha! Last one, up, inhale out, inhale up, bend and ha! Come back to standing. Open up the palms of your hands and close your eyes. Notice what's going on in the palms of your hands. You might find a prickly feeling or a pulsing feeling. This is your energy reawakening, flowing. Okay. And then notice also, could I let go of anything? What could I release, or what did I release in this exercise? And just notice, and then we'll return to our seated position. So when do we use this breath? If you were very tired in the morning and you can barely get out of bed, once you get out of bed, I would definitely use this breath. This will give you enough of your energy so that you're able to continue with your day as opposed to going back to sleep. You can use this any other time during the day when you want more energy. So instead of grabbing a cup of coffee, you can use this energizing breath. And if you're sad, this gives you a feel-good feeling. And if you're frustrated, or angry, and you want to get rid of that anger, that would be a great time to use the breath as well. All right. So now we're going to go to our calming breath. This is going to calm down the central nervous system and soothe the central nervous system. When we do this breath, we're going to practice breathing through your nose, inhaling and exhaling. If that's not available to you, then breathe through your mouth. You have to do what you need to do. This is called 3-part breath or complete breath. We'll begin with breathing through the lower belly. We'll move to the rib cage and then up to the collarbone. Breathing in totally and exhaling totally. To help us connect our mind and our body and our breath, just when we breathe, feel that motion of the breath filling up and letting go. So starting out in our chair, we're going to begin with what's called centering that helps bring us inward. So close your eyes, feet on the floor, and hands beside you, or on your lap, whichever is most comfortable. Begin by pressing your feet into the floor, into the earth, and feel the connection and support of the earth beneath your feet. Then press your buttocks into your seat, into your chair as well, as if you're rooting down into the earth. Again, feeling the support of the earth. Lift up out of the rib cage, opening up your chest and shoulders down. Let your chin be parallel to the floor so that your neck is open, so you can breathe completely and fully. Start placing your hands on your belly, and you can widen your fingers or make your fingers wide. So before we begin our breath, what we will be doing is, as we inhale, we'll fill our belly up. Think of your belly as a balloon. So when you inhale, you'll think of expanding the belly and filling up your balloon. And then as you exhale, you'll press your navel towards the spine and release all the energy out. So let's begin. Inhale, filling the belly balloon. And then exhale, gently press the navel towards the spine, deflating the balloon. Inhale again, filling the belly balloon. And exhale, navel towards the spine, deflating the balloon. Inhale again, filling the belly balloon. And exhale, pressing the navel to the spine, deflating the balloon. So now we're going to take our hands, placing them on our rib cage. When we add the rib cage to the exercise, you're going to think of expanding the rib cage outwards. And then when we exhale, you're going to think of squeezing the rib cage together towards the midline. So let's begin. Inhale, filling the belly balloon, moving up to the rib cage, expanding the rib cage. And then as you exhale, press the rib cage together towards the midline, navel towards spine, releasing all the air out. Inhale again, filling the belly, expanding the rib cage, and then slowly squeezing the rib cage to the midline, navel towards spine, releasing all the air. Inhale again, filling the belly and the rib cage expanding, and then exhale, squeezing the rib cage towards the midline, navel towards the spine. Then take your fingertips, place them at your collarbone. So our next breath is going to flow from the navel to the rib cage, all the way up to the collarbone, opening and lifting the collarbone. So let's begin. Inhale, filling the belly, expanding the rib cage, and lifting and opening the chest all the way up to the collarbone. And then we're going to slowly empty from the collarbone down to the rib cage to the belly, navel towards the spine. Inhale again, filling the belly, expanding the rib cage, moving all the way up to the collarbone, and then releasing from the collarbone to the rib cage down to the belly. So you can drop your hands if you like. And now you can continue at your own pace for the next maybe 45 seconds. As you're breathing, think of slow, deep inhalations, belly all the way up to the collarbone, and slow, deep exhalations from the collarbone down to the belly. Slow, deep, rhythmic inhale, and slow, deep, rhythmic exhale. Now continue on with your inhale from the belly to the collarbone. And now we're going to modify the exhale by making it slower. So you're going to take a nice slow and steady inhale and an even slower exhale. This slower exhale helps calm your central nervous system even more. So continue for maybe another 4 or 5 breaths. Take one more deep breath. And then come back to your normal breath. And I'm going to read for you a poem called Breath of Life. I breathe in all that is, awareness expanding to take everything in, as if my heart beats the world into being. From the unnamed vastness beneath the mind, I breathe my way to wholeness and healing. Inhalation, exhalation. Each breath, a yes and a letting go. A journey and a coming home. Namaste. So you may find and just notice whatever you're noticing and feel whatever you're feeling in your body. Thank you.
Wow, Judi, thank you so much for such a meaningful practice. I don't know if I can replace the morning coffee quite yet, but I will do, and I think is the compliments of that. So thank you, and thank you for being part of this community and offering your gifts of knowledge. We are wondering what the name of the poem and its author. The name of the poem?
The name of the poem is called Breath of Life, and it's by one of my favorite yoga poets. Her name is Dana Fowles, and it's poems from the heart of yoga, go in and in. It's just got numerous poems there that are so meaningful, and this I thought was really appropriate for ending our practice today. And I just
No, sorry, continue.
And I just wanted to say, we have the handouts for all in detail of all the breathing practices. And at the end of the handout, I do have some tips to keep things positive for you when you get frustrated with your mind wandering and what to do for that. So I hope you can use that and utilize it. And just breathe each day, focus on your breath.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Judi. And maybe we can email afterwards about the name and link of that book again. So in this time, again, thank you. Dr. Kogan has joined us. So if you have any specific COVID-related questions, we can...
I also wanted to give one PSA I forgot to mention.
Sorry. Yeah.
So we're having a webinar on July 29th about what's the deal with plant-based. So you've probably heard about plant-based this, plant-based that, or the plant-based diet. But we're going to talk about what the facts are, what the science is, and bust some of the myths out there about it. So if you want to tune in live, it will be July 29th at 1 p.m. Eastern, and we'll send you information on this. Or we'll also have a recording available afterwards, because we know not everyone can do that during the day. But something to look forward to. We'll talk a little bit more about the joy of plants. We got started on today.
Thanks, Judi. Dr. Kogan, is there any sort of highlights that you want to offer, or practical tips?
Well, highlights are bad and they're getting worse, so I don't think we should talk about it after Judi's practice. Unfortunately, I didn't make it on time, so we'll hold the statistical highlights to the next week, I think.
Or maybe things we can do in light of the highlights not being so fabulous.
Right. Let's see, there were a few things over this week that were pretty interesting. One, it seems a little bit of a good news. It seems that mortality is going down rapidly, percent-wise. And I don't know why that is. Some people say that this is partially the fact that in the summer, vitamin D level is generally higher in population. That may be one aspect. Of course, also a quality of care provided in an intensive care units in the hospitals is probably improving, and I'm guessing that's also explains some of it. But I think another reality, it's probably a sad reality, but I'm going to talk a little bit about that the people who are getting infected now are way younger. And so statistically speaking, in terms of where the average age 2 months ago was compared to now is quite different. We're seeing a huge spike in 30, 40-year-olds getting sick. And it's, I think it's an important message. We don't fully understand why people get sick. You would expect a healthy 30-year-old not to get sick. I think it speaks to the fact we don't know enough. It also probably speaks to the fact that a lot more people don't realize how nutritionally micronutrient malnourished they are, even though they may have no illnesses in 30s and 40s, but they actually could be quite malnourished if they're eating a diet that is high in simple carbohydrates and lacking not just carbohydrates, but just the highly processed foods that are lacking in micronutrients. That's probably also part of the explanation. But whatever it is, I think it's still quite important that we maintain as much as possible an anti-inflammatory lifestyle. And I know Dr. Frame had spent the first part of this talk giving you all kinds of great ideas, so I'm not going to repeat what she discussed. So with that, questions, I guess, but looks like we're running out of time, so maybe 1 or 2 questions. And those of you who see my background, I'm in upstate New York, taking a couple of days in the nature. Mushroom picking and blueberry picking. It's our favorite spot up here. That's why. And
Speaking of mushrooms, there was a question about mushrooms. I don't know if you want to cover it, whether you can eat them or if you have to get them in the supplement form.
No, you can eat them. Unfortunately, most of those gourmet mushrooms are extremely expensive, and there's no really easy way, unless you know what you're picking. I don't recommend going around learning to become a mushroom picker. I do this because I started doing this at the age of 3. So basically, I feel like I'm comfortable. And I have, just a full disclaimer, I don't know if I can even try to find that photo, but we found 2 seasons ago, we found a patch of about 150 pounds of maitake. So we gave it to all of our friends. We $20. But that's that gives this amount of nutrients. Unfortunately, also they have to be extracted quite in a specific way, so it's a whole separate topic. And just buying some I just got kicked out. Strange.
You're kicked
Okay, well, anyway, so don't buy just a extract because mushrooms have to be very high quality. But I think eating them, maitake and shiitake, you can get them in the supermarkets, and they're tasty.
All right.
Good question.
I think a good question to conclude on. We have from Kate, as I'm catching up on doctor visit, is it still important for me to quarantine for 14 days after my last appointment before I drive to visit my mom in the Midwest?
No, I don't think so, because at this point, it's such a quarantine would be, it's not any different than you going to a store in that sense. So you wouldn't quarantine yourself after going to a supermarket. So I'd say think the same way. So make sure you wear a mask, try to keep 10 feet or at least 6 feet distance from other people. Most of the doctor's offices now implemented space protocols, so you will not be close to 6 feet at any point during your being in the office. Even in the doctor's room, quite often there is a space between you and a provider. So the only exceptions are certain procedural things like dental work or an eye exam. But I don't think you have to quarantine yourself after that.
All right. Well, I think that concludes our time for today. Thank you so much. I'll turn it over. I'm not sure if Janet has any final words of things for us today, or if Dr. Frame wants to give us our sign off. All right.
Hey, Janet
Well,
unmuted herself. Janet, do you have something to say?
oh, there.
No, I was just, it's a little loud here in the car I'm sitting in because I'm in South Carolina. It's hot and I have the AC up. But thank you everybody for coming today. We hope you'll join us for the free webinar on plant-based eating because it's not just plants. And have a wonderful weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, I'm going to end the meeting.
Okay, Princey.